Hi, everyone. We're going to get started at 2, but I thought I would let everybody in. It's just no reason to leave you in the waiting room. So welcome. Hmm, I forgot something. There we go. Hi, everybody. I'm just still admitting people as they come in. So hopefully I'll give everybody a minute or two and then I'll get started. Okay, I'm sure the minute I get started, someone else will come in the waiting room. But for now, I'm going to start. In case you didn't know, this session is being recorded. All the sessions are being recorded and will appear on YouTube at some point after INFOcon is over. So welcome to this session. I'm going to talk about advocacy. My name is Lauren Mandel. Here's another person in the waiting room, as I mentioned. Here we go. I'm the director of the Graduate School of Library and Information Studies at the University of Rhode Island. You see my background picture, that's the quad at URI, where I am not right now since I work from home, as many faculty do these days. So I'm going to talk about advocacy. And what's important, I mean, there are a lot of things that are important about advocacy, but one of the, I think, most important aspects is how to persuade people. I actually teach a class on advocacy for libraries. In fact, I'm teaching it right now. We are in week 3 of a 7-week class. And this week's topic happens to be how to persuade people. So I thought it would be timely to do this as the presentation. In case you're wondering, this is not actually indicative of how the class is taught because the class is asynchronous and this is a synchronous session. So this is a completely different situation. If during the presentation you have questions, you can throw them in the chat or raise your hand. If I start playing a video and you can't hear it, please tell me. I did put share with audio on when I shared my screen, so fingers crossed that it's going to work. And this is going to be an interactive session. We're actually going to we'll do some Q&A where you have to respond to some polls and we'll see what people think about things. So here we go. So what is advocacy? The biggest thing people confuse it with is activism. So I'm going to talk about this for like a minute, and we'll go into the other things. So activism is actions that are to be taken immediately. It's convincing people to take short-term behaviors or calls to do something right now. It happens in a time of crisis. So it's more reactive. Whereas advocacy is slowly building a coalition around a common purpose or goal, and then persuading people to support and work toward long-term solutions. So it's a slow process. It takes patience. It takes time, as it takes time to build all relationships. Of course, it takes time to build relationships for advocacy too. And the thing is, if you're waiting until there's an emergency, you're trying to do activism. You're not doing advocacy. If you're doing advocacy, you're doing it all the time and building up a coalition. And then you can call upon people in an emergency. You can kind of activate people. But if you're only doing it at the last minute in a reactive way, then you're only doing activism and you're not engaging in advocacy. So being persuasive. I can tell you already that INFOcon was not persuasive in encouraging people to start the session, come into the session on time, because we have people coming in late. So an element of engaging in advocacy is being persuasive. If all you're doing is telling people all the nice things that your organization does, but you're not persuading them to join your organization or support your efforts, then you're not advocating. You're, having a nice PR campaign to raise awareness about your organization, which is important. Don't get me wrong. I teach about that too, but it's not advocacy. Because if you're not convincing people to do something, you're not really advocating for something. Sorry. Okay, so here's 4 main ways to persuade people. In writing, in oral speeches, as such as this one, in imagery, as what you're seeing on the screen, and with data. And I'm going to talk about all 4 and show you examples of all 4 in order, because it's only logical. So persuasive writing. Most commonly, this takes the form of letters. Letters to the editor are very common. Letters asking people to donate money. Letters asking people to donate their time. And when I say letters, it's 2024. I mostly mean emails. I hope you know. I mostly mean emails. So for example, every library emails me all the time because I signed up for their list. So they email me all the time. And I mention them because you will see examples of their advocacy emails later in this presentation. Basically, you're trying to get people to do something. Donate money, donate time, buy something, pass a law, promote your event, anything. So you're trying to persuade them in the form of a written missive, so a letter or an email or something else, to do something. But what gets people to do it? They want to do it. But what makes them want to do it? Usually it's if they see a value in doing what you're asking them to do. So there's 3 main ways you can appeal to people. One is through ethics. So if people believe it is right. One is through logic, if it makes sense to them, or emotions, if it feels good. So how to do it in your letter or email or whatever, you want to get people's attention right away because of course, you know, when you open an email, if they don't get your attention right away, what do? You hit delete, gone. So you have to get people's attention immediately. Then throughout the letter or email, you have to keep their attention by keeping them interested because at any time someone can hit the delete button and be done with your letter or email or throw it in the trash. And then third, you have to ask them to take a clear, reasonable action. If you don't ask them to take an action, you're not advocating. And you want your action to be clear so they know what you're asking them to do. And you want it to be reasonable so they're willing to do it. So let's see an example. And look, every library, like I mentioned. So this is an email I got 2 weeks ago today, November 1st, from every library. If you don't know, they're an advocacy organization for libraries. Anyway, so every library, here's an email that they sent to me. And first, they try to get my attention with an exclamation point. We're looking for one last push to support libraries before Election Day. And then they try to keep my interest. We need people like you, so trying to appeal sort of to my emotions, right? This is why we're asking you to do something, a call to action. Here's the call to action. Retweet and share this post about the pledge to vote for libraries on your social media. So here's the action. And then we made it easy. Just click the link right here in the email. So they're trying to make it reasonable. Of course, they have another action down here. Could you start a monthly donation of just $3 or more? In case if you're not a member of every library, you wouldn't know, but every email has this in it. So they're always asking for this reasonable action. And you see how they keep it reasonable, just $3. So you saw the letter, remind you of the letter. This is the letter. We're looking for one last push to support libraries before Election Day. We need people like you to show you care, drawing on my emotions. That's why we're asking you to retweet or share on LinkedIn or whatever. And you see they give a lot of options. And so now I'm going to ask you a question. So we're going to do a poll. It only has 2 questions. So please take them. You should have popped up on your screen. So I'll wait and see. Oh, some results are starting to come in. I'll give it a few, maybe 30 seconds, and then I will show you all the results. Oh, more people are joining us. Great. Oh, thank you. I want to say thank you, everybody, to participating. I appreciate it. Otherwise, it's really not as much fun if you don't participate. Okay, we have 3/4 of people, so that's pretty good for a poll. So I'll show you all the results now so you can see. Would you click the link and repost this? 63% of you said no. But yet 68% of you said this is effective persuasive writing, which is sort of interesting that you think it's effective, but you wouldn't take the action, right? So is it really effective if 2/3 of people wouldn't actually bother to do it? Sort of questionable, right? It seems like it's not effective. Okay. Oh, sorry. I thought I had pressed share results. See, nobody told me. Now I'm sharing the results. You can see them. Nobody told me they couldn't see it. Sorry. Anyway, now you should be able to see the results. I'll start over. 38% of people said yes, they would click the link. 63% said no. But 68% said they think it was effective persuasive writing. And 32% said no, which is kind of the opposite, right? So about 1/3 of people said they would click the link, but also 1/3 of people said it wasn't effective. So somewhere along the way, there's a group of you who think this is effective writing, even though you yourself would not take this action, which is very interesting. Okay, so did I click the link and repost it? Indeed not. Like 2/3 of you, I didn't do it. But why? Well, I'm not really on social media. So they asked me to do something that seemed reasonable, but it wasn't reasonable for me. Although I have an account on Twitter or X, and I have an account on Facebook, and I have an account on LinkedIn, I don't really post on any of them. I really more use it to read other people's posts. So although it was a reasonable action, it wasn't an action I was going to take because it's not an action I do on a daily basis. So reasonable for most people, maybe, but it wasn't reasonable for me since I don't usually do that. So I didn't do it. So I would say it wasn't a very persuasive letter or email because it did not, in fact, persuade me to take the action. Also, I did not click the button to donate $3 a month. So there you go. Equally, I did not, was not persuaded by that. Okay, that was writing. Let's see speech. So a persuasive speech, it could be live or recorded, like this is live, but also being recorded. And the examples I'm going to show you are recorded. And it could be in person or online. Obviously, I'm going to show you examples online because what else would I do here in Zoom? It could be a famous person, but it could be anyone. And the 3 examples I'm going to show you are what we would call anyone. But it has similar rules as the letter writing. You want to get people's attention, you want to keep their attention, and you want to ask them to take a clear and reasonable action. Okay, so here's where I'm going to show you a video. And if you cannot hear the audio, someone has got to tell me because I won't know. I'm going to start the first video. If you're not hearing the audio, please tell me.
When I was a kid, my mom and I made this deal. I was allowed to take 3 mental health rest days every semester as long as I continued to do well in school. This was because I started my mental health journey when I was only 6 years old. I was always what my grade school teachers would call a worrier, but later on we found out that I have trauma-induced anxiety and clinical depression. This made growing up pretty hard. I was worried about a lot of things that other kids weren't, and school got really overwhelming sometimes. This resulted in a lot of breakdowns, panic attacks. Sometimes I was super productive, and other days I couldn't get anything done. This was all happening during a time when mental health wasn't being talked about as much as it is now, especially youth mental health. Some semesters I used all of those rest days to the fullest. Others, I didn't need any at all. But the fact that they were always an option is what kept me a happy, healthy, and successful student. Now I'm using those skills that I learned as a kid to help other students with mental health challenges. I'm here today to offer you some insight into the world of teenage mental health. What's going on, how did we get here, and what can we do? But first, you need to understand that while not everyone has a diagnosed mental illness like I do, absolutely everyone, all of you have mental health. All of us have a brain that needs to be cared for in similar ways that we care for our physical well-being. Our head and our body are connected by much more than just our neck, after all. Mental illness even manifests itself in some physical ways, such as nausea, headaches, fatigue, and shortness of breath. So since mental health affects all of us, shouldn't we be coming up with solutions that are accessible to all of us? That brings me to my second part of my story. When I was in high school, I had gotten pretty good at managing my own mental health. I was a successful student, and I was president of the Oregon Association of Student Councils. But it was around this time that I began to realize mental health was a much bigger problem than just for me personally. Unfortunately, my hometown was touched by multiple suicides during my first year in high school. I saw those tragedies shake our entire community. And as the president of a statewide group, I began hearing more and more stories from students where this had also happened in their town. So in 2018, at our annual summer camp, we held a forum with about 100 high school students to discuss teenage mental health. What could we do? We approached this conversation with an enormous amount of empathy and honesty, and the results were astounding. What struck me the most was that every single one of my peers had a story about a mental health crisis in their school, no matter if they were from a tiny town in Eastern Oregon or the very heart of Portland. This was happening everywhere. We even did some research, and we found out that suicide is the second leading cause of death for youth ages 10 to 24 in Oregon. The second leading cause. We knew we had to do something. So over the next few months, we made a committee called the Students for a Healthy Oregon, and we set out to end the stigma against mental health. We also wanted to prioritize mental health in schools. With the help of some lobbyists and a few mental health professionals, we put forth House Bill 2191. This bill allows students to take mental health days off from school the same way you would a physical health day. Because oftentimes that day off is the difference between feeling a whole lot better and a whole lot worse. Kind of like those days my mom gave me when I was younger. So over the next few months, we lobbied and researched and campaigned for our bill, and in June of 2019, it was finally signed into law. This was a groundbreaking moment for Oregon students. Here's an example of how this is playing out now. Let's say a student is having a really hard month. They're overwhelmed, overworked, they're falling behind in school, and they know they need help. Maybe they've never talked about mental health with their parents before, but now they have a law on their side to help initiate that conversation. The parent still needs to be the one to call the school and excuse the absence, so it's not like it's a free pass for the kids. But most importantly, now the school has that absence recorded as a mental health day, so they can keep track of just how many students take how many mental health days. If a student takes too many, they'll be referred to the school counselor for a check-in. This is important because we can catch students who are struggling before it's too late. One of the main things we heard at that forum in 2018 is that oftentimes stepping forward and getting help is the hardest step. We're hoping that this law can help with that. This not only will start teaching kids young how to take care of themselves and practice self-care and stress management, but it could also literally save lives. Now students from multiple other states are also trying to pass these laws. I'm currently working with students in both California and Colorado to do the same because we believe that students everywhere deserve a chance to feel better. Aside from all of the practical reasons and technicalities, House Bill 2191 is really special because of the core concept behind it, that physical and mental health are equal and should be treated as such. In fact, they're connected. Take healthcare, for example. Think about CPR. If you were put in a situation where you had to administer CPR, would you know at least a little bit of what to do? Think to yourself. Most likely, yes, because CPR trainings are offered in most schools, workplaces, and even online. We even have songs that go with it. But how about mental health care? I know I was trained in CPR in my 7th grade health class. What if I was trained in 7th grade how to manage my mental health or how to respond to a mental health crisis? I'd love to see a world where each of us has a toolkit of skills to help a friend, coworker, family member, or even a stranger going through a mental health crisis. And these resources should be especially available in schools because that's where students are struggling the most. The other concept that I sincerely hope you take with you today is that it is always okay to not be okay, and it is always okay to take a break. It doesn't have to be a whole day. Sometimes that's not realistic, but it can be a few moments here and there to check in with yourself. Think of life like a race, like a long-distance race. If you sprint in the very beginning, you're going to get burnt out. You may even hurt yourself from pushing too hard. But if you pace yourself, if you take it slow sometimes intentionally, and you push yourself other times, you are sure to be way more successful. So please, look after each other. Look after the kids and teens in your life, especially the ones that look like they have it all together. Mental health challenges are not going away, but as a society, we can learn how to manage them by looking after one another. And look after yourself too. As my mom would say, once in a while, take a break. Thank you.
Okay, that's example 1. I'm going to give you 3. The other 2 are shorter. But I picked them because I thought they were pretty good. Here's the next one. This one's pretty short.
Once last year I got armor and a sword. I found a dog and played with him. I built a house and made a garden. Night came and monsters were everywhere. There was an evil lord that I started killing. Just as I was about to destroy him, time to line up. Hello, my name is Simon Link, and I'm talking about why kids should have an hour-long recess. Did you know that genes change when they get playtime? Out of 1,200 genes that scientists have studied, 1/3 of them have changed when they had a half-hour playtime. Since the 1800s, research shows that you learn better and faster when having playtime. Work that has breaks is more effective than work with long stretches. Some colleagues visited a school that had no recess. They asked them to have recess twice a week so that they could watch them and see what they were like. They were more focused and less fidgety on days when they had recess. Stress impacts on learning and health. For many children, especially those considered hyperactive, recess is an opportunity to expend energy in a healthy, suitable manner. Recess develops social skills. Recess may be the only time of the day when children have an opportunity to experience socialization and real communication. The outside light triggers the synthesis of vitamin D, which many studies have shown increases academic learning. The outdoors is the best place for children to burn calories, practice emerging physical skills, and experience the pure joy of movement. According to Ray Pica, who is a children's physical activity specialist, recess may be the research even shows that you learn. Research even shows that when having physical activity at school, you usually have more physical activity at home, and children who don't have the opportunity to be physically active during the school day don't usually compensate during the after-school hours. Running around helps the brain. Thanks to advances in brain research, we know that most of the brain is activated during physical activity, much more so than being a couch potato. Now, stand up and do 10 jumping jacks when I say go. Go! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now sit down. I imagine a world where every child gets lots of playtime. I hope that if you have children, you will make sure that those children get lots of playtime. Thank you.
Okay, and now we're going to go to the third one.
So you could be wasting your money, wasting your time, and even risking your life. Being tired prevents us from achieving our full potential, and every day we try and fit our work, our schooling, and our personal life in a mere 24 hours. I'm Seth Nishiyama, and I'm here today to encourage you guys to take more naps. My 3 main points are that naps help reduce your anxiety, they help increase your productivity, and they help improve your judgment. Because a third of an hour leaves you empowered. So, my first main point, naps help reduce anxiety. So have any of you guys ever taken a really stressful class that stressed you out? I took a class this year that was really stressful for me. It was engineering physics. It was one of those classes where you get a 62 on the test and you're really happy because it turns out the class average is 30. So I was studying and working on this class all day, day in and day out, and I was just getting really stressed out and tired about it. And eventually, I started taking naps. And I realized after I started taking naps, I felt better, I felt less stressed, I felt more focused, and I felt like I could get more done during the day. And I actually did really well in the class, and I believe it's because I started taking naps. So Song, who is a writer, and she writes a lot about health and wellness subjects, and she wrote an article for WebMD. And she said that naps help reduce the amount of stress hormones in our body. And then Bradbury, he works for a company called Talent Smart, which deals with Fortune 500 companies and helps them manage their employees and their teams. And he says that sleep deprivation alone causes us stress. So by taking naps, we're able to reduce our sleep deprivation and we're able to reduce the amount of stress hormones in our body. Because a third of an hour leaves you empowered. And so my second main point is that naps help increase your productivity. So many companies and businesses are actually encouraging their employees to take naps because tired employees aren't as productive and cause them to lose money. So Yarrow, he writes for Business Insider, which does tech and business news. And he says that Google uses these things called energy pods, and they're made by Metro Naps. And what they're designed to do is help you take the optimal nap. So they stick you in the perfect position so that you have good blood circulation. It relieves pressure off your back. And then it also plays ambient noise to help you fall asleep and gives you a slight vibration when it's time to wake up. Also, other places are encouraging people to take naps. My sister goes to Carnegie Mellon University, and they have energy pods available there for the students because they believe taking naps will help the students become better students and be more productive. And it also doesn't take very long to get the benefits of a nap. According to Harvard, 6 minutes, in as little as 6 minutes, you can see the difference in performance with a nap. The optimal nap is 20 minutes, but when taking naps, you can see improvements in areas such as learning, memory, and creative thinking. Brody, who is a writer who writes a lot about science and nutrition, she's written lots of books and articles about it. She says there's been many famous nappers throughout history. People like Winston Churchill, Albert Einstein, Napoleon Bonaparte, and Thomas Edison all took naps because they believed it helped them be more productive and get more done during the day, because a third of an hour leaves you empowered. My third main point is that naps help improve your judgment. So have any of you guys ever regretted something, like made a bad decision or rash about something because you were tired, woke up on the wrong side of the bed? Well, according to Barnes, he's an associate professor at UW, and he's done lots of research on sleep in the workplace. He says that when we're tired, our judgment becomes impaired and that we're more likely to produce unethical behavior. And so when we're tired, not only does our judgment become impaired and we produce unethical behavior in the workplace, but we also it can lead to life-threatening events. For example, the National Sleep Foundation says that when we're tired, we're more likely to be in an accident because being tired impairs our driving ability because we're not able to make as good of judgments and we have lower reaction times. So, but one way to counteract this, they say, is to take a nap, because with taking a nap, you become rejuvenated and refreshed, and you're able to make better decisions and judgments when on the road. So it kind of reminds me of this story my mother used to like to tell me when she was in medical school. So there's this man who worked in this factory, and he came to work one day, and he was really tired. And his job was to manage the machines that cut the metal. And so a piece of metal got stuck in the machine, and so he went over there, and he reached his hand in there and got the piece of metal unstuck. The only problem is he forgot to turn off the machine, and his hand ended up getting stuck in the machine. And they had to take apart the machine and grab his mangled hand and all the pieces and send him to the hospital, where my mom assisted in the surgery. And there they took wires and used them to rebuild his hands. It's kind of like a shish kebab. But when we're tired, we can make mistakes because we don't necessarily have as good of judgment. And by taking naps, we can hopefully increase our judgment skills so that we make better decisions and we have better control over our actions, because a third of an hour leaves you empowered. So today I talked to you guys about why you should take more naps. My 3 main points were that naps help reduce anxiety, naps help increase your productivity, and naps help improve your judgment. So I encourage you all to start taking more naps, because naps aren't a waste of time. They're not just for kids, not just for the elderly, not just for the sick. Everyone can benefit from taking a nap, because a third of an hour leaves you empowered. And with that, I thank you.
What's it doing? Okay, here we are in a live presentation, and of course it has closed PowerPoint. That's nice. We were here. Okay, so we watched 3 videos. We saw Haley talk about mental health days. We saw Simon talk about recess, and we saw Seth talk about naps. So there's some good examples in here, like Seth used interactivity to keep people's attention. He had them all get up and do jumping jacks, as you saw, of course, in the video. Maybe not everybody did it. So questionable. on his persuasive level. And then, I mean, Seth used a tagline that he repeated throughout his presentation, which is another good way to keep people's attention. So there's some good examples in here. And now we are going to, so there's the 3 examples we saw: mental health days, recess, and naps. And now we're going to go to another poll. Here we go. Okay. This one also only has 2 questions, so please answer the questions. Which one persuaded you the most? And then what persuaded you more, the speaker or the message? Okay, we've got about 2/3 of people responding again, so we'll go with that. So here, this time I actually hit the button so you can see the results. 75% of people were persuaded most by the mental health days, and 75% of people said they were persuaded most by the message. Now, of course, it's not necessarily the same 75% of you, but it does say something that a lot of you thought the message was more important than the speaker, which again goes back to what I said earlier. It doesn't have to be somebody famous. It can be you, it could be anybody. And so now you know that the mental health days was one was a little more persuasive to most people here in this session today. Okay. So why do you think it was? You can drop it into the chat. Why do you think that more people were persuaded about the mental health days than about recess or the naps? If you have an idea, throw it into the chat. Nobody? I could go around and call on people. Thank you. Okay, because it affects us more than recess or naps, because the legislation aspect, so that shows you that it was in fact persuasive. Like the argument already was persuasive. You have proof of that, right? The message was personalized. Another person said more important issue, more relatable, good balance between emotions, logic, and ethics. Thank you, Catherine. You were paying attention to the earlier slide. Gives a larger scale actionable request. Yes. The message was important and the speaker was clear and personal. Yes, the speaker was certainly clearer than the small child, right? I mean, he did his best, obviously. Then considering that naps and recess can actually affect mental health, having a more broad argument of advocating for mental health covers more issues. Oh, we got a +1 on that. Yes, the child is very cute. Obviously, I did not select these at random. The presentation also was more formalized. Yes, I agree. I think that does impact things. I think it was more professional in appearance. It wasn't obviously in a classroom as the third one was, nor was it a child as the second one was. I mean, although I will say, who should speak to recess more than children, right? Even though I'm sure we would all like to have recess in our day-to-day lives, right? All right, thank you all for participating. I appreciate that. So let's talk about persuasive imagery. The most common persuasive images that we see on a daily basis are advertisements. I'm sure you've seen them before. So image versus imagery. Image is a picture. Imagery is something that evokes a meaning and a feeling. It can be a picture, but it can be words, and it can be a picture with words. Really nice writing can evoke a feeling or a meaning. And then imagery can be used to really draw on people's emotions to encourage them to act. And you can also use imagery to serve as metaphors. Imagery can be used in anything, in writing and speeches. It can be used as a standalone thing. Sometimes ads are, like a billboard. So here's an example. Example number 1. This is an ad. You can see the bottle of Coke. See, open a Coke, open happiness. And then drop it in the chat. What about this image evokes the feeling of happiness, if it does? The sunshine. Thank you. That's what I thought too, the sunshine. The green field and nature. +1 on the sunshine. Yeah, I feel like it's the sunshine, right? Because a sunny day makes people happy. You know, today's a sunny day where I am. A few days ago was a gray, rainy day. Boo, depressing, right? The people relaxing. It's interesting you see that. You have one person's arm and they're sitting like in a chair, so you see them relaxing. Okay. So I'm gonna go, oh wait, something in the chat. We'll go to it. The ladybug, yes. I know. Again, I feel like it evokes the feeling of nature. Okay, so let's go to the next poll where you can give me your thoughts. Here we go. Number 3. Does this imagery actually make you feel happy? And does it make you want to take the action to open a Coke? Okay, have about 2/3 of participants again. Oh, even more. Okay. 3/4 of people took this poll. More even. People are still taking it. Great. And then there's a third question, is the imagery persuasive? So now we're going to see what people said. Look at this. Does the imagery make you feel happy? 50-50. Split. Some people are happy in the sunshine. Some people are not happy in the sunshine. Or some people believed the image and some people didn't believe the image. Could be either. Does the imagery make you want to take the action to open a Coke? 81% of you said no. So is it persuasive? Interestingly, again, it's kind of 50-50, but if 81% of you are not going to open a Coke, it's not that persuasive since the whole purpose of the ad is to get people to drink Coke. Okay. So here's another image with some Clorox, trusted by moms. You could see it. What about this image evokes the feeling of trust? You can put it in the chat. Moms. Warmth and star rating. Yes, warmth. And you're probably getting the warmth from the color scheme, right? Orange and yellow. It's kind of a warm, like the sun feeling. Having a 5-star review from someone who may be a parent, although we don't actually know, of course, right? Yes, the colors. All right, so now we'll see. Need to looks like a real username. It could be. I don't know. This is the dad. I didn't make it up. So now let's see what you all think. Oh, come on. Here we go. This one has more questions. Question 1, does the imagery give you a feeling of trust? Does it give you a feeling of moms? It says that. Does it make you want to take the action, which is to buy Clorox wipes? And is it persuasive? Give you a minute-ish. All right, we've got up again about 3/4 of people responding. So let's see the results. Does the imagery give you a feeling of trust? 3/4 of people said no. Does it give you a feeling of moms? 2/3 of people said no. Does it make you want to take the action to buy the product? 80% of you, no. Is this image persuasive? 2/3 of you say no, which I agree with. If 80% of you don't want to buy the product, it's not persuasive, right? But why? You could put in the chat, why do you think it wasn't persuasive or didn't give you the feeling of moms or didn't give you the feeling of trust? Okay, well, one person doesn't like ads. It felt generic and there was no why behind moms trusting it. Why is it moms who need to clean? Why moms and not parents? Sydney too does not sound like a mom name. I don't know. I know somebody named Sydney who has 5 children, so she's a mom. But of course, again, I did not make this up. I personally think it doesn't evoke the feeling of moms because you don't see one. All you got is a name and some stars, right? Perhaps if they showed a parent actually cleaning something with the wipes. And then, of course, it doesn't have to be a mom. It could just be, you know, an adult in a room with like children, indicating parent. And then it could be cleaning something, right? That might give you more of a feeling of parent or mom. Yes, kind of generic. Yes, I thought so. I mean, they're trying to use the 5-star rating as the showing of trust. But you know what might make you feel more trust? A doctor, right? A doctor might make you feel like if they were cleaning their exam room, maybe you would feel more trust, you know, in that they trust the product to remove germs. Maybe you could trust it. Anyway, we'll go on. Data. Okay, so data can be used in anything: persuasive writing, speeches, imagery. It can also be used alone. I mean, it's not as effective by itself if you just have a chart and you don't have an argument to go with it. It is key to use data that is relevant, meaningful, and truthful. Please don't lie with your data. I know there is a book. I enjoy it. It's hilarious. But please do not actually lie with your data. And you want to use data that supports your story and doesn't contradict it. This is really important. I have seen a lot of reports where people use data and try to make an argument. And in fact, the data is saying the opposite thing of what the person is trying to say in their argument. So it's really important to make sure your data actually backs up what you're trying to say. If it doesn't, don't lie with it, but maybe don't use it or make a different argument. So here's an example of data in writing. You may recognize from the start a monthly donation button that this is also from every library. This is from last week. So this is another email they sent me. So here's the data. They sent a whole bunch of data in here. Election day was mixed. 73 individual libraries, 54 passed their ballot measures, 13 lost. And then they give you this at the bottom, 76% win rate, which is down from their 10-year running average. Then here's their call to action. This is their only call to action in this particular one, which is start a monthly donation, but you see they have a button here and a link here. So let's see what you thought of that. I'll show it to you again for a second. This is an email. This is all they sent. It was just written data. There was no, I didn't take anything out. It's not like there was some kind of other thing. I did not. I promise. This is what they sent. So let's see what you all think of this. On number 5. This one has 2 questions. Does the data make you want to take the requested action? Remember, the requested action is start a monthly donation. Is the data persuasive? Well, we have about 2/3 of responses, and you're about to see in a second, it's pretty overwhelmingly one direction. 88% of you said the data does not make you want to take the requested action. None of those numbers made you want to donate $5 a month. So therefore, as you see, 82% of you said the data is not persuasive, which I would agree with. I too did not click the button. Okay, let's see another example. I was going to show another video, but we actually, well, I'll show it to you. Let's hope. This one's pretty short. You see, it's only 3 minutes. And you might be more convinced by this one because you might already believe it.
Did you know that smoking can kill you? Yes, people make a product that can kill so many people. I am taking a stand on smoking. I picked smoking because my uncle, Uncle Mike, smoked, and for a long time. Therefore, in 2016, he got lung cancer, and in 2017, when he left our house for Pennsylvania, he died, and all because of smoking. I think smoking as a kill poison or a slow-killing product. TheFactsNow.com states that smoking can change your blood chemistry and can lead to blood clots.
Okay, you heard him, right? That was data. He got it from facts.com.
Also, it states, 5 things that smoking can take away are fresh breath, white smile, healthy lungs, a strong immune system, and years of your life on earth.
That was more data he's giving you. There you go, just pointing it out.
The more things that smoking can take away as a teen or an adult are that smoking can cause wrinkles and grayish skin. Also, smoking can permanently stunt your lungs. It may affect your ability to run. Another family member, my grandpa, also smoked and had multiple heart attacks from this. I think this happened because factslides.com states smoking makes the risk of heart attack 200 to 400% greater than that of non-smokers.
Again, he's giving you data, and you could hear in his voice that he was stressing the data he was giving.
Some ways to stop smoking are to have a plan. For example, cold turkey or no outside help. About 90% of the people who try to quit smoking do it without outside support. Also, chewing gum is a great way to stop smoking. Sugar-free cinnamon gum is the best way to keep the mouth occupied. If you can't stop smoking yourself, you could do many things. For example, going to see a doctor so he or she can give you tips how to quit smoking. You could also have physical therapy done on you. Also, taking aids and medicine would definitely be helpful by this point. Did you know that 15 billion cigarettes are smoked every day? That's a lot of money spent on cigarettes. Speaking of money, the average smoker in the USA spends from $1,500 to an outraging $3,300 on cigarettes every year.
More data.
Last FactSlide states that one cigarette contains more than 4,800 different chemicals, and
Again, more data. He's filled this talk with a lot of data.
69 of which are known to cause cancer. So I think you shouldn't smoke because on average, smokers die at least 10 years sooner than that of non-smokers. Also on average, one cigarette takes 11 minutes of your life. That means that smoking takes or kills so much time with your family, friends, and most importantly, your life.
Okay, so we had an example here with a lot of data. Okay, so I'm sure you've got the format by now. We're going to go to a live poll. Here we go. This one has 3 questions. Does the data make you want to take the requested action, which is to stop smoking? Of course, many of you may not already smoke, so may not be, is the data persuasive? And then Tristan used data and stories. He talked about his dad, his grandpa, and his uncle. Which one was more persuasive to you, the data or the stories? Okay, I have about 3/4 of people again. So let's see the results. 72% of you do want to take the requested action, which is to stop smoking. 89% of you said the data is persuasive, which of course, if 72% of you did take the action, I would agree. And look at this. Which one was more persuasive? Data, 50%, stories, 50%. What does that say to you? That says to me that when you're giving a persuasive speech, you shouldn't rely on only data and you shouldn't rely on only stories. You should do it the way Tristan did it, where you blend them. Because you don't know who you're talking to, and some people are more persuaded by one or the other. Okay. I think this is my last-ish example in the presentation. So here's another one, data and imagery. This is, you can see your imagery here. So we have data and imagery. I'll show you for a second. So here's an example of data. Students with and schools with access to school libraries and trained library staff see better outcomes on the grade 3 and 6 EQOW assessments. Just so you know, this comes from Canada, so they have different assessments. If you're from Canada, maybe you've heard of it. If you're from the US, maybe you've not. And here's the imagery. Look at this. It's easy imagery, but you see it, right? There we go. It goes with this. Here's another example. There's more data. 1/3 of school boards reported spending less than the provincial per student funding formula in 2021 to 2022. And here's more imagery. Little scissors to go with spending less, because they talk about dramatic reductions to school libraries and staffing. And here's the call to action down here. Help us save Ontario school libraries. Get involved at, and then they have this website. So you have data, imagery to go with each. You have call to action. After the letter, someone said they needed more time to look at it before I went to the poll. So I'm gonna be quiet for like 30 seconds and let you all absorb it. And then I'll launch the poll. Okay, hopefully that was enough time for people to absorb it. Come on, the little pop-up thing doesn't want to come up. Why not? Here we go. You know when you're running the Zoom meeting and the controls don't want to come up? Okay, this is actually the last one, I promise. This one has 2 questions. Does the data make you want to take the requested action? And is the data persuasive? Okay, we have about 2/3 of people, so let's see the results. 59% of people said the data does make them want to take the requested action, and the exact same percentage said the data was persuasive. It might be the same people. I don't know. Can't tell that. So now, of course, you're here in this session, so you're already sort of a pro-library supporter person, or you wouldn't have been interested in INFOcon. So you might be more inclined to be persuaded by this data than somebody who, say, is not a library supporter. But it's still good to know that people would take the requested action from this. Okay. So we're near the end. So key takeaways. Advocacy requires persuasion. Anyone can be persuasive. You saw little kids can be persuasive. And persuasion can occur in any medium. It can be written, it can be oral presentation, it can be imagery, it can be data, it can be combination. Here's my references, in case you're wondering. And thank you. We have like 5 more minutes. So if anybody has questions, you can put them in the chat or raise your hand. I'm happy to take any questions you might have. You can contact me after also. I really want to thank everybody for participating in the polls, because this would have been a much less interesting, I think, presentation if you hadn't participated, because what would I have talked about? No questions? Oh, I want to add that to reach even more people, what you advocate for should also be accessible. Yes, I agree. Image and audio descriptions. I agree. Because that way you're reaching more people. You're reaching everybody. Very interesting. Oh, you're welcome. How have you used data in library advocacy? Okay, so I have not actually worked in libraries since 2007 when I left to get my PhD. I am, a professor now. I've been one since 2012. So I would say more how I've used data in advocating for the library program at the university. So as an example, our dean is extremely data driven, which is handy because I'm also a very data focused person. So I know in the past when other department chairs have gone to her with like more anecdotal evidence, she then doesn't necessarily want to give resources when there's no evidence or, I mean, of course, so she's very data driven. So when I provide her with data, I'm more likely to get the results that I want. So for example, if I want to hire another faculty member, the most persuasive data I can give her is our enrollment number. And thank goodness ours happens to be going up, so it's handy for us. But showing her that enrollment number, then shows, and it's also, we can look at the enrollment number and how much we're spending on per course faculty and how much it would cost to hire a new faculty member and how much we might save by going in that direction. Saving money is a pretty good data point to use to advocate for things. Who doesn't like to save money? But that's an example from my world, because I'm not in the library. I mean, I'm in like the library adjacent world of library education now, but I'm not in the library. What can we do to keep ourselves protected from people who may not agree with our message? I think have a lawyer. Also have policies. I say this all the time in my classes. Having policies in place is really important. And it's the same thing. It goes back to what I said before about advocacy being a proactive effort. Having a policy means you have something to rely on. It means you have something you can go back to and say, our policy is that we only allow respectful interaction with people who work in the library. So people who are disrespectful can be asked to leave, for example. Also, I really think it's important in today's day and age to have a lawyer on retainer. I can't lie about it. I think it's really important to have a lawyer available at this point. You need somebody who can actually protect you if you need it. And you may also need some form of personal security depending on where you're going. And then you have to think about what that means to you. Thank you. Can you connect the polls examples to the topic of advocacy in libraries? Some yes, some no. I mean, some of the examples like ads, you don't get a lot of ads for libraries. So I had to use examples from, commercial products. Libraries aren't actually really big on advertising, especially from the point of view of trying to advocate to get people to do things other than to come in and use their services, which is good, but you're not really getting them to become like, say you had an ad that was like, the way every library does it, where you could to get people to like retweet something in support of the library. It's not a thing libraries do a lot, which is why I think it's important for people to take classes in advocacy in library school, because I think, personally, for a long time we lived in this world where most people trusted the library and most people in libraries felt everybody supports us. So we don't have to be strong advocates because everybody does support us. And then it got to this situation where libraries were struggling for funding and they realized people might support us, but they might like us, but they don't actually want to support us like with their checkbooks. So people became more cognizant of needing to advocate for funding. But I think it's becoming more apparent that you now have more and more people who don't even necessarily fall into the camp of like and trust the library. So libraries have to do more advocacy than they are doing to build a base of supporters so that when you are confronted with, say, something like a book challenge, you have people you can go to support your effort. Let's say you want to go, for example, in this state, I'm in Rhode Island. The Rhode Island Library Association has been working to get legislation passed that actually would make banning books in libraries illegal. So they've been working on a campaign. Last year they tried it. It didn't pass in the legislative session because it kind of died in committee, which happens a lot here, unrelated to whatever the topic of the issue is. Just happens a lot here that things die in committee. So, but now they're trying to build it more from the grassroots level of trying to get like local politicians to reach out to the legislators. So it's about building, like I said earlier, it's about building your advocacy coalition so you have more people to rely on. But this is about being proactive, about not waiting for the book ban to come, finding a way to have a policy or law in place for when the book ban comes so you're ready for it. I hope that helped. I know I kind of rambled a little. Well, it's after 3, so thank you all for coming. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad. If you have more questions, really, feel free to email me. I'm available anytime. I know I'm not a librarian anymore, but I was one, and it's still my job as a professor to answer questions, so feel free. Contact me anytime. And I hope you enjoy the rest of INFOcon. I know it's near the end, but there's more sessions to enjoy, so be sure to do that.